am I live now? Check. Point is locked. Rotate device back. Come here, how do I fix this? I need my technician here. So how do I fix it? It says rotation is locked. How do I unlock it? Is that gonna work it?
That's the only viewers on the TV.
Me, yeah. Okay.
That's me.
Okay.
No, that's me.
Okay, go downstairs and see if
You
that...
can't. You have to make it straight.
Okay, so go check and see if it's working now. Good morning, Philippines! Well, we're live. Let's turn the air conditioner down a bit so you can hear me. Say up, I had it twisted sideways, so I'm really still a novice at all this technological stuff. So we'll get right into it anyway and see who climbs on board. A lot going on in the world today. Is Joe Biden alive or dead? He has COVID, they say. Good morning. I see there's 3 more that joined us. Where are you from? Let me know in the scroll. Oh, Matt Smith. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so today, where are we at? In the Philippines, we have a typhoon going on up north of us. It's causing a lot of disruption. Our friend Ian, the expat, his subdivision's flooded, and Manila's quite wet. What? You bumped your head too close to the scope. No, this is part of the haircut style they have here in the Philippines, where they carve your part and they bring it down to your eyebrow. So that was my son had that done, and we decided for solidarity we both get it done. So yeah. No, I haven't been shooting at anybody lately. Not to say that Matthew Crooks hasn't. Yeah, if you could just for a moment address that and the fireman that passed away in saving his family. Respects to them. It's a sad day, sad week, and I guess Americans got a lot to think about over the next little while. To connect it. Oh, we're kicking in and out in terms of the YouTube channel. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, so we're on week 20 of our construction. We're up on the 3rd floor now, and we're pouring that today. Should finish that pour today. and that'll mean all we'll have is the rooftop to do it, and we're done. We can start infilling and finishing the rest. So if you're following that, it's week 19 is the last one. I'm very glitchy. Oh, oh, why am I glitchy? 100%. I don't know. Have to complain to my technician who set this up. She's quite young, you know. She's only 10 years old, so. Oh, I'm in and out and in and out. Something wrong with the internet here today. Um, so Bo just finished the last of his series of 4 shots. Um, what is it? I'm glitchy?
Yeah, you're pausing downstairs. The TV and the phone.
Well, it says it's coming up live. It comes back in.
Yeah, and every single second it goes, downstairs it goes circle, circle, circle.
Okay.
It pauses.
Oh, I don't know. Something wrong with the internet. What can I do? Anyway, that was my technician giving me advice. Um, so, yeah, this whole thing with what's going on in the States right now, a lot of people are talking about world. I think that when things get tough, a lot of leaders look for distractions overseas, start a foreign war, get them focused somewhere else. A lot of people think that the Great Wall of China was built to defend China against the Mongol invaders, and not so. It was the Emperor of China at the time just wanted to keep the people busy and focused on the paranoia of the outside invader. It's an interesting factoid if you want to look that one up. So the real risk now is with all these foreign wars is that they could escalate, and I don't think the rest of the world's really interested in that. But let's talk about something else if we can. So far we've only got 2, so maybe I'll wait to turn the air conditioner back on. Maybe it'll bring me some luck. Finish my water. Exciting times for sure. And yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about is some of the negative aspects of YouTube. I mean, everybody thinks it's a bunch of narcissists looking for attention. Some of us are actually trying to contribute something in terms of your experience here in the Philippines. I hope if you look through my library, you'll see that I've tried to do that. Talked about age gap relationships and age gap relationship kids. Talked about travel, restaurants, recommended some hotels and different places to go here in the Philippines. So that's my perspective. But also, if anybody's watched me for a while, you notice that I popped out a couple of videos criticizing some other bloggers who choose to attack other YouTubers. And recently, my friend John, the British expat, has been attacked unfairly, and the creep who does it deserves no recognition at all. Yeah, there's a fair number of them. I don't know. I mean, you can browse through them. I've got skills to marketing. So, my battle recently has been we're stuck in at 872 subscribers, to which I'm eternally grateful. I really treasure your comments. I don't think I expressed that enough. I really enjoy getting input from other people, and so please take a look at the other videos I've got out there and let me know what you think. I don't, my aim is about as good as Matthew Crook's. So I don't hit the mark every time. I guess there'll be a lot of jokes going around about that kid for a while. But yeah, the only way anyone grows is through some constructive criticism. And I learn far more from enemies than I ever do from my friends. Because friends try to be so gentle and they value your relationship, so they tend not to say what needs to be said sometimes. On our situation with John, the British expat, I'd say that he's got a big heart, sometimes too big, and he's trying to justify himself too much. He's got nothing to justify. Live your life, John, and enjoy the day. I see a lot of bloggers stepping outside. Right now, I'd love to do that, but we've got a construction site underway and there's a lot of neighborhood noise. You probably hear the dogs barking in the background, the air conditioner going. We've got a rooster now outside, it's crowing all the time. So, yeah, right now, the Canadian government, for any Canadians out there, you know that they reduced the profitability on capital gains by increasing the government's portion from 50 to 66.7% of your capital gains on anything over $250,000. And a lot of people think it hits rich people, but not really. It's actually the middle class and people who've got maybe that little family getaway that they've now, with inflation, they feel compelled they have to sell in order to get by. Maybe they need a truck to get to work or something like that. So they end up selling their family vacation home like it's a one-time thing, and they get nailed because it's going to be worth over $250,000. So they end up paying taxes on it. So I thought about a lot of the goings on in Canada for the last few years, and I've posted this as well. The demographics in Canada have changed. When I was growing up, it was a Catholic Protestant mix for the large part. Now we're getting a lot of Hindu and Muslim input, which are great civilizations on their own part. But in terms of bringing in the melting pot, Canada's structured differently than the States. Canada is balkanized. You have Quebec with their own language laws. You have Alberta with their own wealth that they felt the federal government felt compelled to strip them of and share amongst other Canadians. And these things create resentments regionally, and it's not the melting pot situation. So what you've got is you've got these ghettos growing up. I'm not saying they don't happen in every country in the world. Um, my understanding is the word ghetto comes from originally from the Jewish ghetto in Warsaw, in Poland during the Second World War, and what a catastrophe that was. So people don't have a lot in common, and when the shit hits the fan and the economy starts dropping, they start looking for excuses, and they start pointing at the illegal immigrant initially, and that gets sideswiped with just straight immigrant, and anybody who comes to the country has a rough time. And in Canada, if you're any kind of professional, it's tough. Yeah, the Anglo-Saxons, it's not that they didn't stop having babies, man, it's just they started killing them. The abortion rate is rampant in North America. We're killing children, and I'm 100% pro-life. Even in the case of rape and incest, I'm pro-life. It's not the child's fault where they came from. Their dad could be a drunk, he could be a drug dealer and a criminal, he could be by accident, maybe gay or whatever. It's not the child's fault where they came from. You don't try and stick the sins of the father onto the son or daughter. And until people learn to embrace children as part of their lives, right now, children looked upon as a pain in the ass. I have a friend who I grew up with, and she's very generous. She does a lot socially, but when we had the typhoon, she donated money to help rebuild my mother-in-law's home. But, she runs off every year to Burning Man and has her little single party. And she's had one daughter, and that's been her pet project, and that's it. And she'll complain that she was a victim in her marriage, like every woman does. And I'm not there to judge her or anybody else, but I think the focus has to be on having more children. And a lot of people agree with me on that now. The blacks in the States are complaining about the genocide being brought about. Well, I guess I'm starting to bore you to tears. Oh, we're up to 3. So people are coming back and forth, popping in and out. Say hi. Let me know where you're from, if you're just following along. Yeah, I have a follow-up glass of water after my coffee. Started too late. I finished my coffee already. I get about 3 or 4 cups in the morning, get me going, get things pumped up. But coffee does dehydrate you, so you sure to follow it up with a glass of water when you're done. Treat your kidney and liver with respect. This is one of the arguments I have with my Filipina. She keeps trying to stuff food down my throat. Oh, you have to eat. You have to eat. She's worried about my health, and I say, no, you give me too much starch for sure. I mean, rice with everything, and if it's not that, it's breads or something else. I don't mind the oatmeal. Yeah, it's good for my digestive tract. But when you get older, you gotta also remember that you don't need the level of calories you did when you were younger growing up. So you have to reduce that. Unfortunately, Sylvester Stallone didn't do that, and he's in perfect shape if you consider a circle a shape. So we can easily pack on weight when we're older. So you gotta cut back, because don't forget that when you do eat, your food is also having to go through not just your stomach, but in through your blood and your liver and your kidneys, and it's wear and tear on them. If there's any toxins present in any of your foods, be it mercury in tuna or herbicide residue on fruits and vegetables that hasn't been washed off, all that stuff nestles into your liver and compromises that, and hence that's probably the reason why we're getting so much colon cancer and liver and kidney disease. Um, my my dad died of kidney failure, so I probably will too. I've had a couple of surgeries, what do they call it, litropathy. They put you on an ultrasound and they shatter the stones inside your body so you can pass them through. And then I also had a stent put in because the stone was so big. It was a 6 millimeter stone and the opening was only 4 millimeters, so it just ripped my insides out. So they had to rebuild. I think it's my left kidney's pathway to my bladder. And so, yeah. And my health overall is starting to deteriorate. When you get older, all those old ski injuries and stuff start coming back to haunt you. And my knees aren't great. A buddy of mine, Martin Holt, he's had both his knees replaced, and my God, that looks horrendous to me to have to go through that. So we'll just take it easy, go down the stairs, and take my vitamin D so that my bones hopefully will heal if I do break one. So yeah, Matt, the Anglo-Saxons, which is, it's interesting, Anglo-Saxons are actually, they came from northern France and Belgium. They came from the other side of the water and invaded and wiped out all the Picts and Druids and the Celts that were in England at the time. So when somebody says that they're a pure Brit, you can tell them they're full of BS, because there's really no such thing as a pure Brit. The Vikings came in and ransacked their coasts, and that's where you get all names like Anderson, Stevenson, Davidson. Those are all Viking names that came aboard, and they settled in England. And they even talk about the early Britons were black, so who knows? So you can go on 23andMe or heritage.com or whatever, and you can ask for a kit and find out where your roots are from. I had a father who's quite a history buff, and he went back and tracked us back to 1658 on the shores of Philadelphia, and we have a long loyalist record to the crown, which has changed too, because right now, boy, did I ever throw a rock in the pond when somebody referred to as Camilla, the king's consort, as the queen. She isn't the queen, and she never will be the queen. She is the king's consort. If Diana had survived and they'd stayed together, she could have quite easily been the queen. Because don't forget, the job of the King of England is not only to deal with the legislative part of signing documents and stuff for the British Parliament, but he's also the defender of the faith, the Church of England, or the Anglican Church, if you want to say. And, We all heard the story of what happened between him and Camilla and Diana. So that's that one out of the way. What did I talk about? Donald Trump. Yeah, everybody's talking about Donald Trump and their theories. Yeah, The Crown on Netflix. That was probably a good show. I don't. I only caught a little bit of it. My my grandfather was head of the Freemasons of Lower Canada, and he had dinner with the king. My name, Philip, I'm named after Prince Philip, and my mother's cousin, Philip Cole of the British Navy, Commander Cole. So, yeah, our family was connected to the royals. We're not royalty, but I joke around and tell people I'm 37th in line to the throne just to get them going. But, yeah, it's it's an interesting thing. Somebody brought up the point about relating to Donald Trump and Kings of England. Is was it King? Was it King Henry III who said aloud? He spoke aloud. He said to his knights were hanging about. He says when talking about the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Becket. He muttered something to the effect, will no one get rid of this insolent pain in the ass, or something like that. I'm ad-libbing. Will nobody rid me of him? And he just was speaking metaphorically, just like, but his knights, taking literally, they went out and they killed Thomas Becket. And I'm thinking about that in terms of Joe Biden's comment about putting Donald Trump in the bullseye, and some impressionable, well-meaning youth decided to get on board and take him out. But the more you look into this Thomas Crooks fellow, the Thomas Crooks, he's quite fascinating. He has no digital imprint, but he has some offshore accounts, which makes you wonder. He showed up in the BlackRock video, and they're trying to draw connections. Who knows whether we'll ever find the truth? But I see the Secret Service has learned since they took out John F. Kennedy, not to lose any loose ends. They didn't have a Lee Harvey Oswald wandering around, maybe spilling the beans. They made sure that the sniper took him out immediately, so he would never talk. The other part about it is that everybody talks about how Donald Trump saved his own life by dropping to the deck. And, you know, when the Secret Service allowed the sniper to take the shot and Trump went down, that could have sent a message. The body language would be, okay, Trump's down, he's dead. Now we can kill the sniper, take him out. And that's why they waited to have him take the shot, and that's why they waited before they shot him. What do you think? There's a lot of theories floating around about this kid. I'd be fascinated to learn more. Joe Biden just provided proof of life. Everybody's concerned he was dead last night because he hadn't shown himself for about a week. But if he's not fit to run the country in re-election, and the media's admitted that he's got dementia now, then why isn't Kamala in charge? Why would they hold back? She'd be much harder to beat as an incumbent than just putting her name on the DNC roster. So that could be interesting to find out. Do you think Kamala would be the next president? And how about this? If they had taken Trump out and Biden was disappeared, you would have Kamala Harris versus, what's her name? Nikki Haley. Two women fighting for the presidency. Well, that could have been an interesting one. Which, that would split the female vote, wouldn't it? Quite interesting there. Maybe John F. Kennedy would come up in the middle. Maybe he still will. Okay, let's get off politics. Talk about something else. So we're into the wet season here now. And as I mentioned earlier, the monsoon's pouring up the coast, and this is going to end up being a monologue, I guess. Not getting very many comments, which is probably my biggest disappointment in this whole YouTube thing. I thought I'd get a lot more comments. I mean, you don't necessarily have to like anything I'm doing, and you don't have to subscribe. I'll remind you again that it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. It's certain to share it. And if you actually enjoy any of my content, share it with your friends and let them set you straight. um, but Matt, you've been around for a while. Roy Reynolds, John, and Ian, always dropping in to say hi. I appreciate your friendships. Grumpy Dude Bryant, if you're out there, hope you're enjoying your visit to the Philippines. Regular work. Yeah, well, I mean, Trump, he did go to the office every day, but then he had a guaranteed job, didn't he, through his dad? So, you know, that's the thing, Matt. That's my issue in politics. Is that to me, it's like the feminization of politics, where men ran the world, they could focus on policy. But now, since the women have had the vote, it's all about personality and offshoot character. Because Trump slept with a porn star, that doesn't mean that his policies on the southern border should be listened to. It's like there's a total uh, dystopian separation between what's actually being done and the character of the person. Abraham Lincoln, his wife's family had slaves, and he supposedly freed them, which I don't think he did at all. I think wasn't until the 1960s when we got rid of Jim Crow and some of the equal rights legislation was put in place that the liberation, the rightful liberation of the black American was granted. They fought in every war, they certainly paid their dues tenfold to what many others entitled did. And then, what else we got here? I can sell the Southern Border Power for 75 cents. Yeah, just charge them 75 cents to enter it. They don't have it. Well, if you don't have a border, then you don't have a country. I mean, Russia's changing the border lines of Ukraine and making statements that it's not Ukraine, it's not a country. So, unless you've got borders and prepared to defend them, you can't really kill yourself in a country, can you? So, and the Philippines, yeah, apparently Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Bongo Marcos, has gone back to the table with the Chinese, and they're working out a peaceful resolution to their disputes in the South China Sea, and have asked the American military establishment to step aside and let them just deal with it. And that's one thing I don't think you could ever count on is the. Hey Rick, how you doing? We're talking about, or I'm talking about South China Sea right now, and a lot of political stuff. But right now we've got a resolution of settling the dispute between China and the Philippines, between the two. And unfortunately, the diplomacy department in the American foreign policy is virtually dead. I mean, they should be talking to Putin. They should be talking to Xi. Nothing that's happening. Trump did try to open up some of those lines. We'll see where that goes. But like the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Who knows? So, is there anything that you guys want to talk about? Let me know. What do you think of my construction videos? Is there anything I should be adding, subtracting, or making your comments on? Just so you know, John was mentioning something about how do you find a contractor here in the Philippines. Well, I'll tell you how I did. In my case, We lived here for 5, 6 years, and after about the first year of this tiny little townhouse, I put in a little extension of the kitchen myself to make it habitable, whatever, from a Western perspective, and got a decent sized fridge and that kind of thing. But then it still wasn't enough, and I've been looking for land. We were looking at the whole about 10 years ago, and initially before we bought this place here, and I started walking around to different construction sites to get ideas and not only to try to acclimate myself to the Philippine construction methods, which are different from Vietnam or Thailand. It's interesting throughout Southeast Asia, the different construction techniques and how they use. I mean, it's a lot of concrete, brick, and rebar, but how they design or strategically put their weight-bearing elements. Like the Vietnamese will build the wall, two parts of the wall, and leave a gap, and then just put two boards on either side, throw some rebar down, right? They'll put a footing in initially and connect to it, but they'll pour the support column after they built the walls. In the Philippines, they build the support column first on all four sides, and then they fill it in with bricks. And a lot of things people get wrong are that they think that the bricks are some sort of structural component. They're not at all. It's just a replacement for your gyprock. And if you've taken provisions for support, because the walls are heavier, but if you do that as opposed to gyprock, especially with my little kids here, they can easily put their fists through a wall, and they've done that. So that's the fiberboard they got. It's a fiberglass cementous mix, very thin. You can get thicker boards, but still based upon a steel framing, and that steel framing rusts out eventually anyway. So that's another issue. And then they put in this cheap laminate. No. So we're going to go with direct tile, cemented right to the floor in all the rooms, and the walls will be concrete brick. And there's varying qualities of brick you can get to, so you can check that out. So back to my point about the contractor. The previous 5 years in my subdivision, I've been walking around, looking around, and I saw a couple of renovations taking place, and I'd say, hey, when you're done, come see me. And a lot of them talk blah, 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 blah. But eventually, over time, I got to talk to a few of the guys and express my ideas. And one of them, I'd seen his work. He walked me through and showed me some of his construction and some of the stuff I didn't like, and I pointed it out to him. And he said, yeah, well, that was the homeowner's decision. I agree with you. I would like, so some shortcuts were taken, and the contractor is still subject to the will of the contract grantor. So you can come in and mix up a good thing. Just from a perspective of my own family, I pointed out where the CR, the washroom, is going to be put in the bathroom, in the far corner, away from the kitchen, because you'll see that a lot, because the economy of using pipe, they'll put the toilet right next door to the kitchen sink. They'll just put a little wall and door, and you're doing dishes and you smell what's happening next door. So I separate all that, but then my wife says to me, well, I want you to put the mosquitoes here, but you do get in. I want to put the toilet, put a CR outside, like right in front of the house. Are you? Huh? What? So, the thinking patterns are different, and sometimes the expediency and the costs involved get in the way of doing a proper design. So we have to deal with it. So getting back to my point about how I met Dexter was that he did a couple of jobs around here, and we got in conversation, and we did an initial drawing of the site, and he brought up the point that we should do a test hole uh, to see what could be supported. And we found when we did the test hole that wouldn't support the size of the structure that I wanted. Now, originally I wanted to have 4 floors on this, and that was a no-go. Yeah, we found that the land mass was largely limestone, but there were crevices that had filled in over time with mulch and all those. So there were soft areas, and particularly in the front right corner of the lot. So we designed it so that the structure would lean more to the back, and we get a better weight distribution there. So we couldn't build 4 floors. We ended up building 3. So we're pouring the 3rd floor now, and then on the top of that there'll be light structure, and the Vico Electric had just announced a 36% increase in electrical rates for Cebu, which is nuts. They also want to expand into Malapascua and other areas. So who's paying for that expansion? Maybe the customers, but I thought it might be a good time to put in solar panels. So we'll probably put in between an 8 and 10 kilowatt solar array, and save some energy costs there. Well, I'm talking to myself again. There's only one person watching, probably me. So back to the rabies issue. With the amount of dogs and cats and rats and stuff that run around here in Southeast Asia, you got bats and everything else too. Rabies is an issue, and so when my son got bit, we took him in and he had his 4 shots. He's a big fan of Titanic, and I told him that if he gets 4 shots, he gets 4 smokestacks, which is the Titanic. So he got his 4 shots, and we made a Titanic Lego together, and that's sitting on the porch. But the first couple of shots with the anxiety with the kid, he was hyperventilating, screaming, and 7 years old. He's got a good muscular development on him, and he was no contest with his mother. So I ended up having to hold him down when I gave him his second shot, because he was quite apprehensive. But he took the second and the third fine, and then on the 4th one he went in on his own. He just went and held his breath, and I should have taken a video. It was quite funny, but I don't want to exploit every aspect of my family life here on YouTube. So we continue to putter along. Stuck here at 872 subscribers, and I'd really appreciate it if you folks could share it with your families and friends, and anybody who's either thinking about coming to the Philippines, or that you think is stuck and needs to consider coming to the Philippines, or who's maybe building a project in the Philippines. I'm also conversing with guys like Finn Snow and Marcia, Wilma and Greg, and Rose, and different people who are building in the Philippines, and so that's of great interest. And if I find any construction tricks or tips, I'll certainly pass them on through the videos. You can look that up there. We're going to go with whole house air conditioning, and I've discussed that before. We'll be mounting the air conditioning units on the top of the floor, because cold air is denser and will fall to the floor and cool the whole room off. The problem with the low end stuff I mentioned, I think in my last live stream, is that the cold air just sits on the floor level, and it very quickly dissipates. Or that's one of the reasons why we're putting a sunken living room in the new redevelopment, so that when you're sitting there watching TV, you got a cool pod of air and be less fluctuation on the air conditioning. And we'll put the air conditioning system on the solar panel, so that that's probably the major drag. That and the fridge. The rest of it, we don't need it. You know, the odd lights. The lights use very little electricity now. These LED lights, they consume so little voltage, so that won't be a problem. In fact, uh, Dexter suggested we put in some perimeter lighting and dress up so we can show off some of the architectural details of the building. And yeah, so you'll see my on the videos that I overlaid some of the ideas and concepts from the various elements of the construction. So we'll see how close we get to that when we're done. And I'd like some input about what you guys would like to hear. I heard from one fellow who wanted to know about furniture costs in the Philippines, so we did a video on that. Um, some hotels, I just did one on what's it called, EIG Hotel in Mactan. Um, so, yeah, my my visa here is for 1 year, being that I'm married to a Filipina. So before October 19th, we'll have to either extend the visa through the processor, maybe we'll just take off. I'm thinking of going to Singapore. I've never seen Singapore. I've landed and transferred in sometimes, but I've never really seen the town. So maybe we'll either go there, or I like Vietnam too. Maybe southern Vietnam. We got some nice beaches there as well. Not too many people know much about that area. But there's Halong Bay in Vietnam. It's quite beautiful. They got oyster farms in there. So what else have we got? It's not like I'm doing a video here where I just pause and interject something new. Let me just think for a minute. Or perhaps there's something you'd like to talk about. Rick, are you still there? Well, we've dealt with some of the negativity on YouTube and how to deal with it. Virtually, you just got to ignore it, move on. There's always someone who's going to attack you. Uh, you know, the world seems to be increasingly divided, and we all have to take a position, I guess, on what we believe at some point. Certainly, Canada has changed, as I said. It's not the same demographic, and the priorities are different. I really appreciate the Philippine government and their ability to. You've got a smart guy who's running the show, you know. He's chosen diplomacy over military enforcement, and the world is becoming a more hazardous place to live. So that was my concern, was that given all the things that are going on domestically in America, the time is ripe for a distraction with an overseas foreign war. And if you know your history, you'll know that Bismarck once said that when you control a nation economically, it's only a matter of time before you own it politically. And China's jumped on this big time with their Belt and Road Initiative. They've undercut American interests in Africa now, and the African nations are one by one turning to BRICS and to China for a resolution to inequities in their societies. So, and Americans are starting to realize that they don't live in a democracy. The CIA or KGB, there's very little difference. There still are political executions going on left and right. It's sad, but it's reality. else we got? Well, we've talked about the Philippines. All right, Rick. Rick, you got anything for us? We're going to talk about? Because this is supposed to be a dialogue between you guys and me. Um, I've seen a couple of guys now since we started this have come to the Philippines and are discovering their own way. Chad Foster has gone back to Ontario and is going to come back to the Philippines. Um, I try to keep a good, harmonious relationship with other bloggers, but some of them make it increasingly difficult to do so, so we just have to cut them out of our lives. And I can understand that. And I also know that being a libertarian runs against the grains of a lot of both Democrats and Republicans, and it's being the political season. I've noticed on Facebook that my posts are getting 0 views, so although Mark Zuckerberg says that he's not going to interfere with this election, the evidence seems to show that both Facebook, YouTube, and Google are all censoring commentary. That's why Trump started Truth Social. That's why Elon Musk bought Twitter at a financial loss. So other viewpoints can be discussed. I mean, what's wrong with another viewpoint? I could be dead wrong, but when I express my viewpoint, if I am wrong, that gives you a chance to argue it. Yeah, that's great. Electrical work. Yeah, you know what, Rick, for the cost of what it would be involved, I wouldn't recommend. I mean, you could do all your own electrical work if you like. If you're building in concrete, um, your general contractor is gonna, along with you, you can lay out all your electrical lines in the concrete, set all that up, right? Run the wires, all the rest of it, and then just have a guy go in and hook up the panel for you if you want, along with you. And it will cost you next to nothing. So, but you probably want to do your own design. I'm not an electrician, but I still laid out all the parts of my duplex outlets where my panels will go. We had some discussion on where the inverter and the solar battery pack will be put, and the size of the panels. And actually, one thing you might be interested in is doing with solar is on the top floor, because of the amount of sunshine we get and the heat gain that the building gets. I'm actually going to use the panels as another layer of protection to stop the heat of the sun coming into the building, and use it as a canopy around the deck. So it'll serve actually a dual purpose. It'll collect electricity, but it'll also be sloped, only to a minor degree. I don't need that heavy tilt you need in the northern hemisphere. You can virtually lay your panels almost flat here, because the sun, it's at the equator, it's directly overhead, so you're not dealing with in Ontario, because we're getting further north, they actually have tracking systems that the whole array, there'll be an array of maybe 8 or 10 panels on, and the whole thing will follow the path of the sun to maximize the gain. Don't need that here, because we're right on the equator, so that's one of the advantages, I guess. And if you're looking at building on a separate island, certainly solar panels, they're ideal for the Philippines. In fact, the other thing definitely I would do if I were to go into Leyte or Samar or some other of the other islands, I get Starlink as opposed to some of the internet. I may still get it here. We'll check it out. But my understanding is that Starlink works better out in the boonies where there's no interference from other service providers. So you might want to consider that as well. and then maybe put a genset in the back as a backup in case there's a problem with your solar panel. Maybe you blow a battery or something. Although I don't know, there's some you can build so many redundancies in a solar system that you wouldn't need a genset. And then the other thing too is water filtration. So and pressure, because it's cyclical in terms of monsoons, dry season, wet season. Uh, Last winter we went through a real dry stretch. Everything just turned brown, and crops were lost, and people were starting to shut down wells and that type of thing. So we're on a well here in our subdivision right here in Cebu, and the water's quite hard. So when we're done, I'm putting in a probably about a 2,000 liter, 2,500 liter tank at the top to maintain water pressure, and we'll put in a pre-filter thing before it goes into the tank to take out some of the alkalinity and the hardness in the water, and should be able to drink straight from the taps. I would recommend it, but that's another thing. Those are the three main elements: are your hydropower, because you want to be able to refrigerate your food. Although if you're living in the provinces, they don't do that. They go out to the market or out in the field and harvest every day, so it's all always fresh, and it's fresh kill of the meat, fish, and that kind of thing. I pick them up daily. So they've gone for generations without refrigeration, but if you decide to go there, then you'll want to have electrical power to back it up, and so hence the solar panel. So you get your solar panel, your water filtration, and the third thing, power, like, and the internet. Yeah, so your Starlink. So those are the three basics. If you want to get an idea of someone who's really done a great job, Finn Snow, he's he's had a learning process too. He learned about water treatment just recently with the swimming pool. The other thing too is because the whole house will be air conditioned. I don't really need a swimming pool. We have a swimming pool in the subdivision which I never use because, frankly, they don't know how to maintain the pool properly, and it's always cloudy. But occasionally we jump in. But if I were in the provinces, I would definitely build a swimming pool, and they tend to build it as a box. It's basically an oversized bathtub. If you watch Wilma and Craig, they built an oversized bathtub. It's not even uh, conforming to some of the safety requirements you'd have in the West. There's only a single drain in there. So you should have a dual drain, so in case anybody ever gets stuck, they're swimming, their hair gets stuck and they're drowning in there, you can pull them out. If you don't have the other drain for it to drop on, the vacuum will just suck them to the ground. You have a heck of a time pulling them out, and that's why it's required. The other thing too in the Philippines is a tendency to tile the whole bottom of the pool. I wouldn't tile the whole bottom of the pool in a dark tile. If you do, go with a light tile, but I would plaster the bottom white, because if you ever have something in the bottom of the pool, you want to be able to know what it is, whether it be a drowning body or a wading water snake. Who knows? So if the water's clear and you've got a white bottom to it, you'll see whatever's on the bottom. And that's it. As well as a perimeter fence around the pool, which is a requirement in most Canadian provinces. Minimum I think is 4 feet, but for most places it's 6 feet to keep the kids from climbing in and drowning. And I have a particular connection with that because it was a client of mine whose daughter drowned in the swimming pool that initiated the first legislation requiring a fence around swimming pools to protect children. So, yeah, there's some construction ideas for you. Then what else have we got? Brownouts. If you watch, Chad Foster just put out a video about living in the Philippines, and he does talk about building your bubble. And one of the things he talks about is perimeter walls and creating your own insular space. And we've done that in a sense by building in within the subdivision where we have armed security guards and dual gates and concertina wire. It's all the protections there. They circulate throughout the neighborhood with their flashlights at 2 in the morning and make sure everybody's okay. And you know their neighbors, but they're all middle class Filipinos. A lot of their help are poor people that they're helping, either relatives from the provinces or uh, some of the local neighbor barangay people who do like laundry cleaning or babysitting or house cleaning or gardening, that type of thing. So that goes on as well. Um, but yeah, if you're going to build your bubble, um, you want to be able to feel comfortable in the barangay where you are. And that's been part of the problem in my land quest for finding property, is where you can feel comfortable. Like I wouldn't live in Negros, northern Negros, Occidental. There's still some very poor people there who are ranked as terrorists. So they just killed a farmer the other day and claiming he was a member of the PLA. And northern Samar is another area where there's a military camp up there that gets attacked occasionally. And this has been ongoing with the Philippines for decades. And as the standard of living improves and people are less desperate, um, I recently had a conversation with a fellow who uh, somebody snuck into his place and was stealing a chicken to eat, and he was an ex-marine, and he put all three of them in hospital. And he says he still visits them. He feels sorry about it because now he realizes they were just stealing the chicken for food. When they're that desperate, you don't want to be in a situation where you come between them. And even if you're benevolent and you give locally to the community, charitably trying to improve one, there's always one bad egg. I don't care where you are in the world, there's always one bad egg in the lot. And you end up becoming a magnet. Recently, my wife commented that I was going to the bank on too regular a basis, and that somebody could stalk me and find me and track me going home. Well, I pointed out that when I go to the bank, they've got armed security guards there. I get out of the car, walk 10 feet, or no, maybe 10 yards into the bank, and get my money and walk 10 yards back, and we're in the car and we drive home back into our secure complex. So I'm not really worried about that. But there was a time where I would go to the bank and walk home with 50 or 100,000 pesos in my pocket, oblivious to the fact that there was a risk there. But I'm in Taliban. People here are generally good, and there's lots of people around, and I don't really worry about that. I'd be more worried if I was in Manila in Makati than I would here in Cebu. Cebu is one of the most affluent areas of the Philippines. A lot of what's built or made for the world comes out of Cebu. Your call centers, there's some in Manila, but there's a number of them in Cebu. Some of the manufacturers, Japanese and Korean manufacturers, are located here. And the Philippine government just opened up a new steel plant. Well, it's been operating a while, but they officially opened that up. They opened a new concrete plant. Things are on the go here. And the Philippines is about to change its status from a developing country to not a first world country, but definitely a rising economy within the world. And some are claiming that eventually to be a superpower. It's funny, the number of Filipinos are not worried about a Chinese invasion at all. They comment, and some of the military analysts have even said, including General Douglas McGregor, that given the go-ahead, Japan could quite easily, like in 1937, just go right across the water and take over China anytime she wants, because the Chinese do not make good warriors. And President Z is aware of that because he's continually reminding his troops to be ready for war, be ready for war, be ready for war. But if you've had a one-child policy for decades and decades, and all you've got are mama boys who are little emperors, they don't want to get hurt. They don't want to get shot. They don't want to sacrifice for their wives or their sisters, and so they're gonna run and turn tail. So that's not really a concern here. Um, it's more of a concern with the West and Taiwan, um, which China wants to claim back as their traditional territory. We'll see what happens there, but I doubt anything will happen. Um, it'll peacefully be absorbed by probably a different China than what we see today. As it becomes more affluent, different priorities come into play. Oh, turn the air conditioner off. It's getting quite cold in here. um, what else we got? So Rick and Matt, thanks for coming aboard. Uh, let's see what else we got going here. Uh, I don't know. This empty head of mine. I don't have a thought for the day. I'm lucky to have a thought for the month. Um, living here in the Philippines is a different scenario. What you can anticipate is a difference in priority. Um, we were having a conversation today. My contractor, he wanted to bring in a couple of new guys to do some work, and they showed up at the job, and I've forgotten the expression they use here for it, but they want to be jobbers or contract laborers, where you assign them a job and they'll do that for X amount of dollars. They don't want to work on a daily rate. So we had to say sorry, no. So they didn't join the team. So we've got 8 guys now. Um, one guy got sick and I went home. I don't know what happened there, but um, yeah, they're continuing to finish the third floor, and we'll do a video again at the end of the week on that. Um, what else we got going? Back home in Canada, the Trudeau government's under fire to get Trudeau out. Um, a lot of foreign nationals are going back home, realizing Canada isn't for them. Um, and retirees, it's brutal. Inflation is brutal for those who are on a pension. We're stuck. And if they haven't been able to save enough money to buy their own home, then they're living in a rental where their rents are going up as well. Their heating costs are going up as well. They're paying additional tax on carbon tax. They're getting nailed left, right, and center. It's an assault on senior citizens and veterans, and that's, I don't know, life isn't fair. You just learn to adapt. And that's why coming here is probably a good thing, because the cost of living is lower, and I get a hug from my honey every day. So thanks for coming aboard. We're a little bit over an hour now, and I'd appreciate your comments. Didn't get a whole lot of traffic this time, but thanks anyway. And if nobody else has anything else further to add, we'll say goodbye, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Bye bye.